Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. Buckle up, this one's going to hurt in slow motion. She didn't see me behind the pillar when she said it. She never even lowered her voice. Between the clink of wine glasses and shallow laughter, her words sliced through the jazz like a broken violin string. He's my biggest mistake. A quiet mistake I let grow roots. She said it casually, like she was ordering another glass of Pinot Noir. I stood just a few feet away, out of sight but close enough to count the ice cubes in her drink. For the record, I wasn't snooping. I was looking for the restroom. I'd taken a wrong turn down one of those fancy event hall corridors with dim lighting and overpriced art on the walls. I never expected to hear her voice echo through my ribs. My wife. My Lila. The woman who used to fall asleep on my chest humming off-key. The woman who used to kiss my forehead and say, "Don't ever change." Now she was telling her boss and some guy in a navy suit that I was a mistake. A quiet one. What does that even mean? That I didn't yell enough? Didn't take up enough space at the dinner table? Didn't wear designer shoes to match her new image? I didn't move. I just stood there behind that pillar, like some forgotten stagehand watching the main actors shine. They laughed. Lila swirled her wine. The guy in the suit leaned in a little too comfortably. And then she smiled, that same polished, crowd-ready smile she wore during family photos and fake apologies. An hour later, that smile would be gone. And not because I made a scene. I didn't flip a table. I didn't scream. I did something worse. I let go, without warning, right in front of everyone. I didn't sit at our table when I came back. I circled the room once, acting like I was admiring the decor, but really I was just buying time, watching her. Lila was at the center of it all, laughing with that same group, hands moving like she was conducting the orchestra of her own importance. Her shoulders were squared, her back straight, her wine glass full. I realized I wasn't her husband tonight. I was her accessory, just another polished detail to make her seem complete. A waiter walked by with a tray of flutes, and I grabbed one without thinking. I don't even like champagne. It just gave me something to hold while my mind ran laps. I started looking around the venue like I didn't belong, like I was a guest at someone else's wedding. Everything felt wrong in my skin, my sleeves too tight, my breathing too loud, my presence too obvious and yet invisible at the same time. She hadn't even noticed I was gone for nearly 40 minutes. When I finally walked toward her, she caught me in the corner of her eye and gave me that rehearsed smile. The one that doesn't reach her eyes anymore. "There you are," she said, wrapping an arm around mine like she hadn't just called me her biggest mistake to a pair of strangers. "Was beginning to think you bailed." I should have said something then. I should have asked, "Do you really think I'm your mistake?" But I didn't. I laughed. Like an idiot. Like a man trying to keep the air from leaking out of his lungs. I nodded along to some joke her boss made about corporate mergers and even complimented the risotto, which tasted like wet chalk. I played the role. I always play the role. That's what she liked about me, right? Predictable. Passive. Safe. But under the table, my phone was open. I was looking at train schedules. Exit strategies. Hotel rooms. Anywhere but here. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't that kind of man. I just wanted to vanish from the script she'd written me into without a single word of protest. No fireworks. Just silence. By dessert, I already had a bag waiting in a locker at Union Station and a message half-typed to my brother. She kept laughing, and I kept watching the clock. By the time they brought out the mini desserts and espresso shots, I was already halfway gone, not physically, but mentally. Every polite laugh I gave was a silent goodbye. Every clink of a spoon was a step further out the door. I sat beside her like nothing had changed, but inside I was miles away, trying to remember who I was before I shrank myself to fit her version of a man. Before I learned how to disappear in plain sight. She leaned toward me at one point, brushing her hand across my knee, and whispered something about how exhausting these people could be. I stared at her fingers. Polished nails. No ring. She'd stopped wearing it 2 months ago, claiming it didn't match her new watch. I believed her, or maybe I wanted to. That's the thing with small betrayals. They never shout. They chip away in silence until there's nothing left but a shell. When they dimmed the lights for speeches, I excused myself. Said I needed air. Lila didn't even look up from her phone. Probably texting one of her work friends. Maybe the guy who made this still time to escape joke. I don't know. I didn't ask. I didn't care. What shocked me wasn't that she said those things about me earlier. It's that, after hearing it, I didn't feel angry. I felt relieved. Finally, The curtain had dropped, and the actress I loved so fiercely had turned to face the crowd without her costume, and I saw her for what she really was. I went to the coat check, handed in my ticket, and told the woman behind the counter that I'd be leaving early. She smiled politely, handed me my jacket, and asked if I enjoyed the event. "I don't think I was invited," I said, half laughing. It came out sadder than I meant it. Outside, the city felt louder, colder, but somehow more honest. I turned the corner, walked 2 blocks, then hailed a cab without even thinking. I gave the driver the address to a small hotel I'd booked on my phone earlier, one of those places with blackout curtains and no front desk questions. As we pulled away, I glanced back at the glowing rooftop, where she was probably raising a glass. She still thought I was hers. She had no idea I was already gone. I didn't expect her to notice that night. Honestly, I thought she'd drink, pose for a few more photos, then Uber home and barely register that my side of the bed was untouched. But by morning, I had 4 missed calls and 2 voicemails. I stared at my phone while sitting in that tiny hotel room with its scratchy towel and humming minibar, my suitcase still zipped on the chair beside me. I let the calls go to voicemail, not out of spite, but because I didn't know what to say if I answered. What was the script for this? "Hi. I overheard you say I was your biggest mistake, so I slipped out and ghosted you mid-corporate toast." The first voicemail was stiff. "Hey, just wondering where you went. You didn't say goodbye. Text me." That tone she uses when she's pretending not to be annoyed. But the second one, that one was quieter. "Alden, are you okay? I don't know if I should be worried or if you're just being dramatic, but please don't do anything stupid." Stupid. That word stuck. It wasn't said cruelly, just casually, like most of her worst moments. She never shouted. She minimized, shrunk things down until I felt guilty for reacting. I set the phone down. I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, I wandered out to a nearby diner, the kind with sticky menus and old men reading newspapers alone. I liked it immediately. No pretenses, no curated smiles. The waitress called me Han and brought me pancakes even though I didn't ask for them. I think she saw something in my face, the hollow kind of confusion people only notice when they've lived through it themselves. While I sipped coffee that tasted like burnt paper, I checked her socials. It was a stupid impulse, I know, but I had to see. Her company's page had already posted photos. There she was, center stage, holding an award, that same practice smile locked in place. Not a hair out of place. You wouldn't know her husband had walked out mid-dinner. You wouldn't know anything was wrong at all. But then I noticed something. A tag. One of her coworkers had uploaded a short video. And in the background, just a flicker of a second, I saw her laughing with the guy in the navy suit again. Too close. His hand was on her lower back. Hers didn't move away. My stomach dropped, and for the first time, I wasn't just sad. I was suspicious. And suddenly, I wasn't sure this story ended with me disappearing. Maybe it was time to start watching more closely. Back at the hotel, I couldn't sit still. Every creak of the hallway outside made me flinch. Every vibration from my phone set my pulse racing. I hadn't answered her. I hadn't texted. But now, after seeing that video, the closeness, the familiarity, I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was alert. It was like someone had yanked off the blindfold I didn't even know I was wearing. And the worst part? I didn't know where truth ended and paranoia began. I powered up my laptop, mostly out of habit. I'd used it to help Lila with a presentation last week. We share everything, or at least, we used to. Desktop was cluttered with work files, receipts, random screenshots. But one folder stood out. It was titled Final Proposals 22. I almost clicked past it until I noticed the update date was from 2 nights ago. Strange. Her final proposals for 2022 were submitted months ago. I hesitated, then opened it. At first, it looked like regular documents. Corporate decks, partner pitches. But halfway through, I found a subfolder labeled Venice. And that's when I felt the pit in my stomach open wider. We were supposed to go to Venice for our anniversary last year, but she'd canceled last minute, claimed work was too hectic, and promised we'd reschedule. We never did. I didn't argue. I never do. Inside the folder were PDFs of hotel bookings, restaurant reservations, and 2 boarding passes. Both dated the same week we were meant to go. But only one name was mine. The other? Brendan H. Lockwell. I sat back like I'd been punched in the chest. Brendan. Her coworker. Navy suit. Back touching, wine pouring Brendan. The one she called her work husband half-jokingly. I used to roll my eyes. I even shook his hand once at a summer barbecue. And now I was staring at a record of their shared hotel suite in Venice. While I'd spent that week at home fixing a leaking faucet she never noticed was broken. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the laptop. I just closed the screen, gently, like I was afraid it would scream. This wasn't just a mistake anymore. It was something else. And I was done pretending not to see it. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a little. I lay in that stiff hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, counting every shadow like it might hold a different answer. I didn't know what hurt more, that she lied to me, or that she lied so easily. I replayed the voice in my head, the one that used to defend her. There's probably an explanation. Maybe it was a business trip. Maybe Brendan canceled. Maybe, but I wasn't that naive anymore. I was exhausted from making excuses for someone who never made any for me. By morning, I still hadn't texted back. She'd stopped calling sometime after 2 a.m. But at 8:14 sharp, I got a single message. Are you okay? I don't know what happened. Please come home. No question about why I left. No apology. Just that gentle manipulation, the one she always used when I got too quiet. Like tossing a rope to someone already halfway drowned, but tying the other into a rock. I stared at the message for 20 minutes before I replied with 2 words, later. Maybe. An hour later, I was back in our neighborhood. I didn't go inside. I sat in my car across the street and watched. I don't know what I expected. A parade of betrayal? Brendan sneaking out the back door? Nothing happened. The curtains were open. The lights were off. It looked like every other Tuesday we'd spent in that house. Except everything had shifted and only I could see it. Eventually, I went in. Quietly. No slamming doors. Just the familiar sound of my keys on the hallway table. She came out of the kitchen like nothing had happened, like I hadn't vanished for a day without warning. Hey, babe, she said, brushing hair from her face. You scared me yesterday. I didn't know if you were sick or... Sick? I asked. My voice didn't sound like mine. She stepped forward, trying to close the gap. You weren't answering. I thought maybe. You took Brendan to Venice. The words came out flat, not loud, not dramatic. Just a fact laid bare between us like a broken dish no one wanted to clean up. Her face didn't crumble. It didn't even twitch. She blinked, once, then twice. Calculating, calibrating. Are you going through my files now? She asked. No denial. No explanation. That was all I needed. She wasn't sorry. She was cornered. And I wasn't angry. I was done. She stood there, arms crossed now, like I was the one being unreasonable. Like I had broken some kind of sacred rule by looking at the evidence of my own betrayal. That's when I realized this wasn't even about Brendan anymore. It wasn't about Venice or the lies or the folder she didn't bother hiding. It was about the fact that I was never supposed to notice. I was supposed to keep playing my part. Smile. Stay quiet. Carry her coat at events where I didn't belong. Nothing happened between us, she said finally. Flat. Mechanical. Like someone reciting a line from a script they hadn't rehearsed in a while. I tilted my head. You shared a room in Venice for 4 days. She shrugged. It was easier to book one room. It wasn't like that. Do you think I'm stupid, Lila? She didn't answer that. Instead, she walked past me and sat on the couch, reaching for the throw blanket like we were settling into a casual Sunday morning conversation. Look, she said. Things haven't exactly been exciting between us. You've been quiet. Passive. It's like living with fog. That hit harder than I expected. Not because it wasn't true. I knew I wasn't the bold, adventurous partner she probably craved. But to hear it like that, in that tone, like I was some atmospheric inconvenience, it cracked something inside me that had already been fragile for far too long. I didn't cheat, she added, softer now. But maybe I thought about what life could have been like if I'd chosen differently. There it was. The unspoken truth finally given breath. So what now? I asked, barely above a whisper. I don't know, she said. Maybe we take a break. Maybe we both need space to reset. Figure out who we are. A break. After nearly a decade. Like we were interns choosing different majors. I nodded slowly, but not because I agreed. I nodded because it was already done. The break had started the moment I overheard her laugh behind that pillar. Fine, I said. I'll go. Take all the space you want. She looked surprised, like she expected another apology, another compromise, another sad little man begging to be loved again. But I didn't give her that. Not this time. I packed in silence. Not because I was being dramatic, but because the moment didn't need noise. There were no ultimatums, no shouting, no grand declarations. Just a man folding shirts into a suitcase while his wife sat across the room pretending not to care as much as she did. The difference between us? I'd already mourned the end. She was just now realizing it had arrived. When I zipped the bag, she looked up. "So that's it?" she asked. I paused, my hand on the handle. "Yeah, that's it." She didn't cry. She didn't follow me out. She just sat there like someone who'd waited too long to hit undo. The house didn't feel like mine anymore. Maybe it never had. I left my keys on the kitchen counter, walked past the photos on the wall, snapshots of people we no longer were, and closed the door behind me. Not with anger, just finality. I stayed with my brother for a few weeks. It was awkward at first. He didn't know what to say, and I didn't feel like explaining. But something strange happened during those days. I started laughing again. Not loudly, not in front of anyone, but quietly, when things felt light. Like walking into a coffee shop and not worrying about what someone else wanted from the menu, or falling asleep without that tight knot in my chest. It wasn't some grand transformation. I didn't become a better man overnight. But I did remember who I was before I became someone else's shadow. Lila and I haven't spoken much since. We're figuring out the paperwork, the logistics, the adult part of endings. But in the quiet corners of this new life, I found something close to peace. And maybe that's enough. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. Sometimes the loudest decisions are the quiet ones, the ones where you simply choose yourself. Now I've got a question for you. What's one historical moment, big or small, that changed the course of everything for someone? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to read about the turning points that shaped the world, and maybe even yours. You've been watching Reddit Confessions, where every story starts with the truth we almost didn't tell. Until next time.